Welcome to SAT Prep Thursday. Today we're doing College Board SAT Practice Test number 1, Part 4, number 20 through 38. This is a calculator approved section, so I will be using either a TI-30XS or a TI-30XA. Also, there is a file link in the description for this practice test. Alma bought a laptop computer at a store that gives a 20% discount off the original price. The total amount she paid to the cashier was P dollars, including an 8% sales tax on the discounted price. Which of the following represents the original price of the computer in terms of P? So what we get is 80% of the price is 80 times the dollars to be paid. The sales tax is the dollars of the item plus 8% or 0.08 of those dollars. So 1.08 of the dollars. This is going to give us the actual ticket price times its discount to get it to 80% times its tax of 1.08. Now all of this is equal to P, but what I'm after is finding the original price, which means I can say P divided by 0.08 times 1.08. And D is the answer. The data in the table above were produced by a sleep research study. The number of dreams people recall when asked to record their dreams for more than 1 week. Group X consisted of 100 people who observed early bedtimes, and Group Y consisted of 100 people who observed late bedtimes. If a person is chosen at random from those who recalled at least one dream, what is the probability that the person belonged to Group Y? So what we want to know is at least one dream. This means we know we have these two things right here. They recalled no dreams, and we know there were 200 dreams. So the total we're actually looking at is 200 minus the 15 minus the 21, so out of 164. Now, what we're trying to figure out is just from Group Y. So the total Y that we're considering is going to be 100 minus that same 21 again to give us 79. So we're looking at 79, the people from Group Y who remember one or more dreams, divided by the total number of people that remembered one or more dreams of 164. So C is the answer. We're going to need to refer to this table for problems number 22 and 23. Which of the following best approximate the average rate of change in the annual budget for agricultural natural resources in Kansas from 2008 to 2010? Now we're looking at a best approximate and an average rate of change. I can see that from 2008 to 2009, right here, what I'm looking at is the change in money. Now, the change in money was 485,807 minus 358,708, which gave us 127,000. So that first thing was looking at the change from 08 to 09. But what happens when we look at the 09 to 10? So from 9 to 10. This means that I'm looking at 488,106 minus 485,807, and this is going to give me 2,299. But I'm looking again at an average rate of change. Now, I know what the change from one was and the change from the other. So let's average those to say 127,099 plus 2,299 divided by 2. This is going to give us approximately 64,699. Now, remember, we're looking for the best approximation, so the closest we can find to 64,699, and that would be B, 65. Of the following, which program's ratio of its 2007 budget to its 2010 budget is closest to the human resource program ratio of 2007 budget to 2010 budget? So what we want to do is we want to start out by finding out what the human resources budget was. The 2010 to 2007, this means I'm looking at 2010 divided by 2007. So I get to say 5921379 divided by 4051050. And this is going to give me approximately 1.46. Now the key here is this is the number I'm really looking for. So I can say 488,106 divided by 373,904 and get a 1.31. That seems fairly close. If I say 3,008,036 divided by 2,164,607, then I'm going to get approximately 1.46, which I'm going to call that fairly spot on. Now the question is, since this is education, is there where education shows up in more than one spot for the answer? Because I can see that I have B, but I don't see education showing up in any other areas. Now, if I really wanted to confirm this, then I could sit there and say, looking at this, well, a 14 million divided by a 14 million, this is going to go ahead and be a wash. 1,773,893 divided by 1468,482. This is going to give me a 1.2. And when I look at 464,233 divided by 263,463, I'm going to get approximately a times 2. So the only one that I had was, in fact, education. Which of the following is an equation of a circle in the xy plane with a center of 0 and 4 and a radius of endpoints 4/3, 5? So the thing is, we need to know the equation of a circle, which is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared, and this is going to be equal to the radius squared. So the first thing we actually want to do is figure out what the radius is. This means that we're going to have 4/3 minus 0 squared plus 5 minus 4 squared is equal to the radius squared. This is going to give us 16/9 plus, that's a 1 squared, which is 1. Now the thing is, this right here feels a little inconvenient, so I'll deal with that in a minute. This is going to be equal to the radius squared. How about, to be able to combine these like terms, I treat 1 as if it were 9/9. This means that I would have 25/9 is equal to the radius squared. Knowing that 25/9 is the radius squared, and we want to know about that circle with a center of 0, 4. This means that I'm going to deal with x minus 0 squared plus y minus 4 squared is equal to 25/9. Now, this doesn't match anything that's up here, but x minus 0 is just x. So we wind up with an x squared plus y minus 4 squared is equal to 25/9, which is A. The equation above expresses the approximate height h in meters of a ball t seconds after it is launched vertically upward from the ground with an initial velocity of 25 meters per second. After approximately how many seconds will the ball hit the ground? Really, all we're trying to do is find out what happens when h is 0. So 0 is equal to negative 4.9 t squared plus 25t. Now, the thing that's going on here is I'm going to go ahead and factor a t out. This is going to give me t times negative 4.9t plus 25. Both of these are equal to 0. This means the very first case is t is equal to 0. I'm using the zero product rule. It also means that 0 is equal to negative 4.9t plus 25, or that 4.9t is equal to 25, meaning that t is approximately 5 seconds, which D is your answer. Katrina is a botanist studying the production of pears by two types of pear trees. She noticed that type A tree produces 20% more pears than type B trees did. Based on Katrina's observation, if type A trees produced 144 pears, how many pears did type B tree produce? So A produces 20% more than B, meaning that A is equal to 1.2 times B. Now, if the total A production was in fact 144, then we would have 144 is equal to 1.2 times B. Dividing both sides by 1.2 would give me 120 is B, so B is the answer. A square field measures 10 meters by 10 meters. 10 students each mark off a randomly selected region of the field. Each region is square and has a side length of 1 meter, and no two regions overlap. The students count the earthworms contained in the soil at a depth of 5 centimeters beneath the ground surface in each region. The results are shown in the table below. Which of the following is a reasonable approximation of the number of earthworms to a depth of 5 centimeters beneath the ground's surface in the entire field? So the thing is, 10 by 10 means we're dealing with 100 regions. If we add up all of the earthworms, we're going to get 1,471 worms in total. Understanding that there were 1,471 total worms found in the 10 regions means that we had approximately 147 worms per region. But there are, in fact, 100 regions within this total area, giving us 14,700. Now, this is closest to C at 15,000. If the system of inequalities y is greater than or equal to 2x plus 1 and y is greater than 1/2 x minus 1 is graphed in the xy plane above, which quadrant contains no solutions to the equation? So the key is to go ahead and graph each one of these. If I'm graphing y is greater than 1/2 x minus 1, it's a line that looks about like this, and the shaded region would be above. If I were graphing the line y is greater than or equal to 2x plus 1, that line would look about like this, and it would be shaded over here. But the area with no shading at all, even though there's some, but it needs to have both shaded regions. So that's going to be quadrant 4. C is your answer. For the polynomial px, the value of p of 3 is -2. Which of the following must be true about p of x? So what I start out with is this idea right here that x is equal to 3. This means that I can have p of x divided by x minus 3 would be equal to q of x plus some r value over x minus 3. This means I get p of x is equal to q of x times x minus 3 plus r. Now, we have to remember that p of 3 is equal to -2. So I have p of 3 is equal to -2, which is equal to q of 3 times 3 minus 3 plus r, and these become 0, so that all becomes 0, meaning that r is -2. So the remainder when p of x is divided by x minus 3 is -2, meaning D is the answer. Which of the following is equivalent form of the equation of the graph shown in the xy plane above, and from which the coordinate of vertex A can be identified as constants in the equation? So what we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out what is the hk value, which is that vertex. We need to go ahead and use y is equal to a times x minus h squared plus k. Now, we can see here that h is at 1. And if I look at what happens when we go over 1 in either direction, what I really find is that I get an A is equal to 1 over 1, which is 1. Because of this negative 15, I know that K has to be less than negative 15. Knowing that it's negative 15, there's only one case that I see that happening, and that is in D. If I were to multiply this out to try and go ahead and check that, what I could do is I could say this is y is x squared minus 2x minus 15. Now, I want to go ahead and turn this into a perfect square because I see it's happening. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 1. I'm going to move that minus 15, give myself some space first. I'm going to add 1 and subtract 1. Those are 0, and I'm still going to have my negative 15. Looking at this is a perfect square. That's going to give me an x minus 1 squared. Negative 1 minus 15 would give us a negative 16. Wyatt can husk at least 12 dozen ears of corn per hour, and at most 18 ears of corn per hour. Based on this information, what is a possible amount of time in hours that it could take Wyatt to husk 72 dozen ears of corn? Now, we understand that we have this inequality, a compound inequality, of 12 is less than or equal to x, less than or equal to 18. But we want to know how many hours, because all of this is about hours, it's going to take to husk 72 dozen ears. So really, I'm looking at 72 divided by 12, which is 6, and 72 divided by 18, which is 4, and that means that 4 is less than or equal to x, less than or equal to 6. The posted weight limit for a covered wooden bridge in Pennsylvania is 6,000 pounds. A delivery truck that is carrying X identical boxes, each weighing 14 pounds, will pass over the bridge. If the combined weight of the empty delivery truck and its driver is 4,500 pounds, what is the maximum possible value for X that will keep the combined weight of the truck, driver, and boxes below the bridge's posted weight limit? Well, this seems fairly straightforward. We have a 4,500 plus 14 boxes of X, and that must be less than 6,000. So we move 4,500 to the other side to get 14 X is less than 1,500. Dividing by 14 meaning X must be less than 107 and 1/7. According to the line graph above, the number of portable media players sold in 2008 is what fraction of the number sold in 2011? So what we're really looking for is a 2008 number divided by a 2011 number. So in 2008, we can see that we had right about 100, and in 2011, right about 160. This means that I wind up with 5 over 8, or if you use your calculator to turn it into decimal, we'll get 0.625 million, because remember, it's marked as millions. A local television station sells time slots for programs in 30-minute intervals. If the station operates 24 hours a day, every day of the week, what is the total number of 30-minute time slots the station can sell for Tuesday and Wednesday? So 2 days is equal to 48 hours. So if we have 48 hours and we divide that into 1/2 hour shifts, this means that we have 96 total time slots. A dairy farmer uses a storage silo that is in the shape of a right circular cylinder like above. If the volume of the silo is 72 pi cubic yards, what is the diameter of the base of the cylinder in yards? So we know that the volume is 72 pi. We also know that there is a height of 8. This means that I can deal with 72 pi is equal to pi r squared times 8, which means that I have 9 pi is equal to pi r squared, dividing both sides by pi, and taking the square root means that I would have plus or minus 3 is equal to the radius. Now, minus doesn't exist in this case, so this is the radius. But remember, it wants to know that the diameter is equal to 2 times the radius, meaning the diameter is 6. For what value of x is the function h above undefined? The key is to try and figure out when the denominator of this would be equal to 0. So we're just going to focus on that. X minus 5 squared plus 4 times x minus 5 plus 4. So the very first thing that we're going to do is go ahead and see that this is a perfect square. This means that what I actually have is an x minus 5 plus 2 squared equals 0. See that perfect square? So I can combine like terms in here, meaning I get x minus 3 squared is equal to 0. Now, taking the square root of both sides would give me the square root of 0, which is 0. So x minus 3 is equal to 0, or x is 3. For the last 2 problems, we're going to refer to this information, that Jessica opened a bank account that earns 2% interest compound annually. Her initial deposit was $100, and she uses the expression 100x to the t power to find the value of the account after t years. What is the value of x in the expression? So what we're dealing with here is 100 plus 2 over 100 times 100 is equal to 100 times 1.02 t. That's because we have the initial deposit amount, which is both of those, and we have the interest rate of 2%, which is 2 over 100. That's how we're coming up with all of this. What we actually get simply is that x is 1.02. Jessica's friend Tanisha found an account that earns 2.5% interest compound annually. Tanisha made an initial deposit of $100 into the account at the same time Jessica made a deposit of $100 into her account. After 10 years, how much more money will Tanisha's initial deposit have earned than Jessica's initial deposit? We're going to round the answer to the nearest cent, and we don't have to worry about the dollar sign if you are gridding that response. So what we're really dealing with here is Jessica, who deposited $100 at 2%, so 1.02, for 10 years. Now, just by putting this into that calculator, we're going to get 121.899. I know we're going to round to a cent, so I know that it'll go up. When it comes to Tanisha, what we're going to have is 100 times 1.025 to the 10 years. And again, by using the calculator, we're going to get 128.008. This means that I'm going to deal with 128.008 minus 121.899 to give us $6.11 as how much more money Tanisha would make than Jessica.